Hello everyone, welcome to Lighthouse Stamping with Lorraine. It is May 3rd, 2023, and the annual catalog went live yesterday. So that means I can show you in the catalog finally. And so before I get started though, all the housekeeping notes, a description of all the product I used and all the dimensions will be listed below. There is a link to my online store if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I'd love to be yours. If you have any questions about Stampin' Up! Or the products I'm using, or if you want to see something made on this channel, please send me an email. There is a link to my Facebook group. We'd love to have you join that. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me grow in YouTube world. So the annual catalog. Yes, finally. So anyhow, on page 110 and 111, we have the Fresh as a Daisy. And I'm going to show you the set because we are using this today. And we're just going to do a real brief overview. But the whole suite consists of a die, a stamp set, paper, and some gems. And it is so gorgeous. I was sort of iffy about when I first ordered it. And once I started playing with this set, I fell in love with it very quickly. So it's on those pages. And if you don't have a catalog and you need a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, please send me an email and we will talk. So let me get this out of the way. So we're going to do the paper first. It's just gorgeous. There's 6 pages and they're double-sided. The back side, this is that boho blue and a little azure in it. Lots of beautiful paper. And this has got, that's the Pebble Path. I'm still learning the names. This has Moody Mauve and Wild Weed in it, and Wild Weed on the back. And this has got the copper clay and some greens on the back. Now this sheet is rather fun. This sheet has got panels where you can cut those out and use sections of the panel, or use this as like the whole front of a card, which I could see using, or even this one here. And then it's got the Moody Mauve behind. Obviously, you can tell which sheet we're going to be using because this is the only piece I have left. And this is the one with the blue and the white daisies, and it has copper clay on the back. So that's the paper. The gems are these. There is Lemon Lolly, Boho Blue, and I'm going to lose the name. Copper clay. Like I said, still learning the names. It'll take me a bit. So there's those 3 colors. Now we are not using this set today. We are going to be using some bling, but not this one. I opted to use something else. And this is the Daisy set. And we're going to go through this. I have not pulled out my dies yet. And so we will look at that in a minute. So let me show you what we're making. Of course, we have a beautiful little envelope. And this is our card. It's a gatefold card, but it's a little special. The belly band comes off like this. And this opens up like this. Now, this is not my design. I'm sort of casing Sam Colcutt Mixed Up Crafts out of the UK. She had made this design a 6x6 and a 5x7 card. I wanted to make it a standard size that we use in the US. And so I figured out the math and we now have the card. It stands up beautifully. So you can see the texture in there, and I'll show you how we got all that. And then there's a small place to write on the back. So it's a over-the-top card sort of, but I like it. So we will go from there. My little flower moved, but that's okay. So let me show you how to make this. We are going to make all of our embellishments first before we do the card base itself. So what we're going to need, I have already removed, we're not doing a lot of stamping. I have removed these 2. These are the centers. Got something on there. Centers on, they go in the flowers. And I was just cutting them out with the dies and just out of copper clay, and they just didn't have enough texture for me. So I stamped them on the copper clay with copper clay to give it more texture. We are using the verse, Wishing You the Brightest Birthday. I never thought I'd have a set that said Oopsie Daisy. but there it is. So great. I mean, and these are 2-step stamping, and we'll use these small ones, and I didn't get them out. I did get the verse out, but I didn't get these 2 out. So we'll grab them real quick and grab a couple blocks. You know, I forgot to grab something out. So we'll grab a couple blocks for those. And then the dies I have back here. Now there's this one die that's all hooked together, and we're going to need that one. And I wanted you, and we're going to use this one for our sentiment, but I wanted you to see how this little one here and this one are for cutting out the small pieces for the centers. But I wanted to see how these lay in here, because it's important to see how they lay together before you start, because they come this way. And I wanted you to see it because we're going to be cutting these out in this direction, because it's going to give us our flowers for the inside and outside. So let's get some paper, get my scrap paper out here. And we first need to cut 2 of these. So get a little cranky out here and get it to work. Not big enough. Tried to get a couple pieces that would fit just through there just fine. Now, I'm not worrying about the leaf hanging over, because we're actually going to cut that leaf off on this card. But if you wanted to use it, you could leave it. Going to cut 2 of these flowers out, and I'm not going to worry about poking anything out of it yet. We will worry about that in a minute. I'm over here just taking all the bits and pieces off my die, because there is tiny little dots. And then I'll pull this off and see if there's enough room for it to cut out of this side. There is not. So we'll grab another piece. We'll use that one for something else. We'll clean that up in a few minutes once we get the other one out. There's no sense doing both of them at the same time. We'll do all the die cutting, then we'll clean them up. So we need 2 of the white ones. Yeah, that looks good. And he doesn't look too bad. We'll take this and clean it off. So we do have a little die cutting, but I thought about doing this ahead of time, but I wanted you to see how to die cut these other pieces. I'm going to flip my plates too. So now we need some balmy blue. Oh, not balmy blue. Sorry, boho blue. And we are going to be working on our flowers now. And I need to cut this down a little bit so it fits through the little cranky here. So this is the biggest flower. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the big piece in here first and get it down here a little bit. And then this is this inside piece. And see, if you get it out away, you can look at it. So you can see if it sits in there and leaves this perfect little border around it. And this is how we're going to get both sets of flowers out of one cut of each of these inside flowers. So I want to get them lined up the way I want it. And I'm going to grab a Post-it note. Oop. So I don't want it touching. I want it right in the center. So we'll put that one in there. I'm just going to run this one by itself, and then we'll put the 2 small ones together. So when you pull this up, you first get, okay, gently pulling it out here. you get 2 pieces. There is the border, and then you have your little inside piece here. Now you can use them together. We're going to separate them, and I'll come back and clean that up in a bit. But we're going to separate them to make our front of our card and the inside of our card. So I think I can pull this here and get the next 2 onto one piece. So this is the medium size one. And once you get figured out how these line up in here, it does take a second to get them setting just right. But once you figure out how they sit, first cut or 2, then you'll be real, no problem. This one is very easy. It only fits one way. But you do want to make sure that you're in the middle. So that you still have a nice border. Yeah, we're going to do a little more die cutting here. Like I said, normally I would take and die cut most of this out, but since it's the first time I've used this, I wanted people to see what this thing would do. So, get those out of here. And these. So here is our other one. We have an outside and an inside. I'll just set all these off to the side. And an outside and an inside. And I'm pulling them apart because I'm not using them together. Okay, let me get my chair in here real quick. We're going to grab some ink here before we get rid of little Cranky here. This is the copper clay. And this is a piece of copper clay. Actually, I think we can go with this one. And I want a stamping mat. Where did I do with my stamping mat? These are photopolymer. The reason I want to stamp these is because I want to die cut them while I've got the machine up. And we need about 4 of these. I'll make a 5th one just in case. And then we need a couple small ones. And the reason I said this small one doesn't exactly fit in that. So I'll just make a couple of those. So we're going to do a little fussy cutting when we get to this. But we're going to really quickly cut out these. And like I said, you could just use the copper clay, but by stamping first, I think it gives it a lot of nice texture. And this one fits over that really nicely. Now this one is a standalone one, but I still went ahead and used it to cut the little one. Doesn't fit it perfectly, but it was good enough for what I wanted. So we got a couple insides there. You see this one's bigger, but it's fine. Hey, don't move on me. Yes, I'm still using those Post-its I don't like, but I have a whole box of them, so I need to use them. Get on this quick as I can with these. And once we get this done, we have one other thing to die cut, and that's our verse. So we'll go ahead and stamp that. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, and we're done with that one. How many do I have now? We'll just cut one more, and I'll keep that other one. If I need it, I'll come back and cut it out. Alrighty. And we'll just set this other one aside. If I need it, then I'll cut it later. So those are all of our centers. I'm kicking off to the side there. Now we do have one other thing to die cut, and that's our verse. So we might as well stamp that real quick. And we're going to stamp that one with Boho Blue on white. So a nice piece of white here. Make sure I've left enough room. I have. I know I have lots of stuff going here, but this is the type of card, doing all your embellishments sometimes ahead of time is nice. They also get a chance to dry because we're going to be using some glue on this. So nice. Do like this color, this blue. It's so beautiful. And so last die cut, unless I made a mistake. And I'd never do that, right? Wrong. So if all of you got a chance to look through the new catalog yet, like I said, if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be yours. So you can send me an email and we can talk, and I can get you a catalog. There's also a catalog. If you just go to my online store, you can look at the catalog online. So this has a little stitching across. It's rather nice. Okay, so let's get little Frankie out of the way, who behaved very nicely today. And let's build some flowers, and then we'll come back and finish our stamping. So the first thing we need to do is we need to clean out these stamps here, these dies. So I pull this in a little bit. There we go. So you can use, you know, pick. I tried to use the little scrubber that goes across here, and I found just the a pokey tool of some kind, you know, and then just run your finger across the back, pull them off. Quite nice, and it just takes a second to do it. Not too complicated, but the brush, it kept on. It was trying to curl it, the paper, because there's such thin areas in some of this. And I didn't want these curled, so I stopped that. Okay, we have 2 of these to do, so make sure I have all the little Chad pieces off here. Okay, and we are not using the leaf up here, so I'm just going to gently cut him off like that. Same with this one. I'll go ahead and cut the leaf off right now. You could use those for something else. I actually saved a few of them. Like I said, this doesn't take but a few minutes to do, a few seconds. And you probably could leave the centers in if you wanted, because we are covering them up. But there's that. Like I said, I just used a piece of paper underneath to catch it, collect my mess. Now, I would recommend for this next part that you have a silicone mat of some kind or something so your project does not stick. So we're going to do the first one. And this is for the outside of the card. So what we need, this is the outside of the card, so we're going to use the inside of these beautiful flowers. Now we'll set the outside ones over there. So we want the insides. And what I want to do is I want to glue these in here. And you could use kind of whatever kind of adhesive you wanted, seal, whatever. But I'm using regular glue, just a little Tombow. You can see how they fit in there. I want to make sure that I've seen how he lays like that. I like to lay them out a little bit so I know where I'm going before I put the glue on. What I was lining up was this. Oh, I did it wrong again. There we go. It's this little fork right here where it is tiny, and the tiny one there. And then there's 3 little tiny ones across there. Like that. And then the big one goes like that. Like I said, it wasn't very difficult, but I think it's really quite beautiful the way, oop. I have way too much glue. I'm gonna use my fingers. And then we'll clean my fingers. It's like I glue everywhere. Do you have to watch if you get a glumper? You know, technical word, that glopping thing. Put that in right where we want it. My fingers are very sticky now. So pardon me for 1 second while I get some glue off of my hands. I just got a little hand sanitizer off to the side. It's got alcohol in it, and a little paper towel, and I am de-stickified. So that's that part. Now we need some centers. And this one's going to go here. And then one of these is going to go in this one. And this is the one where it didn't fit exactly. I let it cut it out, so I didn't have to fussy cut the whole thing. And then I just sort of fussy cut out the little piece I didn't need. I'm just putting a little glue on here and popping that right in the center. And you see why I said it gives it texture using the stamp on it. Now this one doesn't really, none of them fit this one real well. This was the closest one, so I'm going to leave it with the sides open, always a little open. But I'm going to put this up here like this. I'm going to let that sit for just a second. Now that looks good. I just want to cover that up. So it doesn't have any stamping here, and you could double stamp a couple times and make it darker there, but I think it looks fine that way. Or you could take one of the bigger ones and cut it out. So this is still wet on the back because the glue's coming through. So we're going to leave it there on the mat. Now the next piece is with the outside pieces. So what you want to do is you want to stick to the inside portion of this as much as possible. Just a little bit on the outside because it actually goes over the top of the flower. I'm going to flip this over so you can see it. You see it goes over the edge there. So you just want a little bit there, more into the inside. And then let's see how this one's lining up. Make sure I got the right line up here. It looks about right. So I'm putting glue on these pieces more than I am on the outside, more on the inside. Get myself back in the camera here. You see where I'm getting the glue? Less on the outside. And the other reason for using glue is you have a little wiggle room. It goes like that. And then we have this one. He's going to go like that. And so like I said, going more towards the inside here, the pieces that hook in. Don't have them laying the right way. Hang on, I turned it. There we go. Like I said, it takes a little bit to figure out where everybody goes. That's why you want the silicone mat. You can see where you've got little pieces coming through here. And then we're going to use not the piece stuck to the glue bottle. Another big one here. I'm going to use another big one in this flower because there's more room on this one. But you could trim it down if you wanted. Oop. I'm very sticky. And then this one I found to be really hard because there is not one that actually is made for it. And I didn't want quite that long, but the corner, if you look how this fits up in here. So what I did was I just came in here and sort of rounded this up a little bit. I'm going to set him like that. And he has plenty of room. Just want to make sure the blue's covered at the top. So there's our flowers, and they're extremely wet right now. That's why I said we wanted to make them first and let them sit and dry. That's where they're going right now, is back on my desk so they can dry until we are ready for them. So let me clean up a couple pieces here and wipe off my hands again because I have so much glue. It's a messy one. I will be honest, it is a messy one, but it is so beautiful. And messy's okay. Adults are meant to get messy once in a while and have some fun. It's just glue, won't hurt anything. Okay, so now we have our last bit of stamping here, and there is 2 stamps. This is two-step stamping. This is a solid, and this is the outline. And we are going to stamp that on a piece. Let me get my cards out here. We have a piece of basic white. Get my mat here. It is 2 5/8 by 3 7/8. You're going to discover this card has a lot of 8s in it. Unfortunately, I had to do 8s to get the measurements to come out. And I'm going to take the outline first, and this is Boho Blue. And I'm going to stamp that down in the corner. This is the piece to go on the back. And then this is the outline, and I always, or the inside, I always like to see how I'm lining up here. Get my head out of the camera, but you can see I'm trying to see how it lines up. I'm going to stamp this. I'm going to stamp it off once. Line it up best I can. Like that. Ooh, did good. And then we do need a center. So we'll grab our small center again. This is what the small center is designed for, is this small one. And this is the copper clay. And I'm just going to stamp them right in the center there. So that is, unless I made a mistake, that is the end of our pieces and our stamping. We'll let everybody sit and dry. Now it's time to build this card. If you excuse me one moment while I pick a few pieces up. My desk got a little messy all of a sudden, and I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so we are going to need a cut and scoreboard. And we are going to need a piece of card. And this card is, oop, I need to back this out. There we go, sorry. This is 8.5 by 5.5. Okay, now, the first one, There's going to be a lot of turning on this, so you may need to stop and start a couple times to get this down. The first one is 8. Back up. Let me have a sip of tea. This is 2 1/8. Get the cutting blade out of the way yet. We're going to score there. And then you're going to score at 6 3/8. Now, if you have a Stampin' Up! Trimmer like this, if you're right in the middle, that's a 1/4. If you go right to the edge of this, the brown there, that is your mark for 6 5/8. So we've done that part. Close this up. Now, this is where I've always told you, turn your cutting surfaces so it's good for you. We are going to bring this in at 3/4 of an inch. We're now on the 5 1/2 inch side. We are going to bring this in, and we are going to bring in our cutting blade now. And we're going to come down to 2 1/8, where our score line is. And we are going to cut down to, and this is 6 5/8. Just your same measurements, just going down to the score line like that. And we're cutting. So we're cutting between the 2 score lines. We're going to flip this around back to 3 Now this should still be lined up. I didn't move it, so it's still perfect. And we're cutting back up to the 2 1/8, or where are, you can see the lines here. They line up perfectly too. That's why I turn it this way. I've put a piece of paper here so I can see my marks really easy. And I can see across this where the lines are into the score. That's why I turn it for me. You can leave it the other way, whatever works for you. Okay, now we're going to turn it back. Actually, we might not. I think we're going to leave it this way. Okay, now we need to get rid of the cutting blade again. And first we're going to score at, bear with me for a second so I don't get this wrong, 2 7/8. And we're going to bring the score line down. Now we're at 3/4 of an inch where the cut line is. And we are going to score down to 4 3/4. And that's where the cut line is. So we're going to score there. Then we're going to come up and we are going to go to 5 5/8. Make sure I got that right. There's half, there's 5. I'm going to come down. I'm going to come back to 3/4 and come back down to 4 3/4 and score. If you go a little over, it's going to be okay. Okay. Then we have one more score line to make. This is 4 1/4. And from the score line, we're going to go up. We're only doing this little section right here. And I'm going to flip it. And this is 4 1/4. Come back down and score down to the score line. I know that's a lot of turning, but this is how you get the thing to pop out on you. So, like I said, stop and start. All the dimensions will be listed below, so don't try to memorize them. So this one's going to fold in. It's going to be a valley. And this other side is going to fold in, and it's a valley. Then you're going to take the middle one here. It's going to be a mountain. And just gently, I'm just pushing it together. You see how I'm just pushing it? And then I'm going to take this inside piece, and it's a mountain also. I'm going to fold that one in, fold it over. And then this one here, I'm going to fold the other direction. It's also a mountain. You see how this card's coming together now? Now I can take these two and gently, don't bend anything, but just gently burnishes. You can just burnish them with your finger too, but I think they stand up better this way. So that's the card. Like I said, it comes together really, really easy. It took me a little bit to figure this out. I had to watch Sam's video several times, and then I had to figure out the dimensions to make this size card. It took me a bit, but I did it. I'm glad I did. So let's decorate. So let's start with the back and the front of our card, because this is going to be the front. It's a gatefold. So let's put our back piece in. I know this video is running a little longer than normal, but I think it's a rather special card. I think it's making very beautiful, not just a birthday card. I think a very beautiful Mother's Day card as well. So we'll put that there. Now I have a bunch of pieces here, literally. Oh, we forgot to stamp something. We forgot to stamp our envelope. We'll worry about that later. Okay, so we'll come back to those in a minute. So I have 4 pieces of DSP. This is Fresh as a Daisy. These are 2 by 5 3/8. There's 4 of them. I've marked 2 as the front, and this is my front here. So if we flip this over, we can see that's the front. And the reason I did that is, you know me, I like to make sure that if I've got a daisy on this side, because this is the front of the card, I wanted it to match. You know me, matchy matchy. So we'll put this one on here. Now this paper, this is sort of the center section of that paper. I'll bring in that piece of paper again. I cut, well, right there, you see that's part of the same flower, I think. Anyhow, I cut in right about just above the flowers here, and then cut this piece. So I have these bouquet in the center. But you could use anywhere you wanted, anything you wanted. But that's where I cut this strange location, but so this is the front and the back done. Now we'll do the inside. These have 1/8 inch borders, and then we have these to go. And make sure you're putting your flowers on the right direction. They do go the right way. There is an ups and down on these flowers. We don't want upside down daisies. Okay, so there's that piece. Then I took from the back side of that paper, which is this, I cut it so it was, the striations were going this direction. And there's 4 of them, 2 by 5 1/8. And like I said, they're very tiny little pieces, but they are to go here. I never thought I would put blue and this copper color together, but it's growing on me very, very fast. All right, now I needed something to go on here before I put my flowers on. And so I decided to go ahead and use some of this beautiful copper clay paper. But I didn't want it flat. I wanted some texture in it. So I grabbed my, of course, there it is. And I already did it. Painted Textures 3D embossing folder. I grabbed it and ran these 2 pieces or 3 pieces through, because there's one piece that is 2 5/8 by 3 7/8, same as the back. And then there's 2 side pieces that are 5/8 by 3 7/8. And I ran those through as well, because I wanted some extra texture right behind our flowers. and our sentiment that's going on the inside. But you could use paper. I mean, you could use DSP there, you know, whatever you wanted. But I thought I'd add some more of this color into it. Like I said, some of these ink colors, I was real skeptical about them. And I've gotten a chance to play with them in the last few days since my order came last week, ended last week. So I got a chance to play with some of this, and they're growing on me really fast. So our inside flower is going to be this guy here. And I'm not going to print him up on dimensionals because of having a belly band, and that top piece will be on dimensionals. So I'm going to print him down. And we only want to print adhesive long as we stay, you have to stay inside this piece here and inside this wall here. So if it goes into these, that's fine. But you don't want to put glue on that section. You only want glue on the inside piece. And it doesn't take a ton of glue. So you got to stay inside. Glue inside this panel, but you can overhang these two, but not the top. Because if you overhang the top, this won't open up this way, like that. And then we have our sentiment here, which I'm going to put down in here. Now, if you're going to hand carry this card, you put lots of dimensional on it if you wanted. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my bling on this right now. I opted to use, this is the In Color Dots for this year, for the new ink colors. And I opted to use the Boho Blue down here, using the little ones. The reason I did that, they were flatter. I'll put one there. And I'll put one down in that corner. These are almost flat, where the others have a more raised section. That's why I went with this. But like I said, if you're not mailing this, you could use whatever you wanted. So that's the inside of our card. And there's the back of our card. Now we need a belly band. So the next piece we need is Boho Blue. And this is 10 inches by 10 inches by 1.5. Boy, I'm having a terrible time today, like usual. And what I'm going to do is just put this around here. And like I said, fold in one side gently. Make sure it's straight. Then bring the other side over it gently. And you're going to want this band to hook in the front. And you're not going to see it anyhow in the front. So that's why I want to do that. Make sure it slides up and down smoothly. Now, there is sometimes if this is pulled out a little bit, there might be a little resistance, but it shouldn't be bad. So, like that. And we're going to glue this together on this end. Just like that. I'm holding that for just a second to make sure it's... So, yeah, it still moved freely there. This card's got a lot of movement to it, so you do need a nice... That's why I went with a little wider belly band, too, to give it a little more strength. Then we bring in this little guy back. Now, we're going to overhang, so we want to make sure that we only put dimensionals inside here. So I know I can put one there. And I can put one here. I'll grab some minis here. I know I can put one right here. You only need a couple. You don't need a lot. And I think I can put one there. Yep. Just double check that you're not outside of your parameters on your belly band. Here we go. Just like that. There's that. And I did forget to do one thing. So you're going to pretend I did it already because I forgot to stamp it. There is a beautiful little daisy flower that does that. I will stamp it before I put my stuff away, but I didn't grab out the stamp. So I'm not going to keep you any longer since I've been on here for about 45 minutes. A little long for me, and I don't want you to have that. So that is our beautiful card with a nice belly band that slides off, and the card pops open like that. I'll hold it up so you can see how it pops open. I think it's quite beautiful. And any of this daisy paper, this card would work beautiful with any of the colors. I just went with this one for today. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you on Friday. Thank you for joining me.